Kathy, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I have learned so much from you over the last 20 plus years, and I'm so excited for you to share all of that knowledge and experience with our patient community. 30 years of experience from a pharmaceutical executive, a 2-time cancer survivor, founder of the MMRF, founder of the Harvard Business School, Kraft Precision Medicine Accelerator, and now you wrote a book, Fatal to Fearless, where you take all of that knowledge over 30 years and boil it down to 12 easy steps that any patient or caregiver could take to maximize their own care and outcome. As you know, at the MMRF, we hear from thousands of newly diagnosed myeloma patients and their families. They're faced with a diagnosis they've never heard of multiple myeloma. What are the top things that they should do right upon a diagnosis?
Well, Anne, first of all, thank you for having me. It's so much fun to do this interview with you. And you and I both know that together we have probably coached thousands and thousands of patients. And at the end of each and every one of those calls, they would always say, oh my gosh, like 5 to 10 minutes with you just saved me 3 to 4 months of trying to understand my cancer and the journey. When we're talking about newly diagnosed patients, it's really important to know 75% of patients actually get their diagnosis through their portal now before their doctor. So immediately you go onto your portal, and all of a sudden you start seeing a diagnosis of cancer. Obviously, you're going to be scared, so you have to do the right things right from the start. Number one, make sure you're researching wisely, which means you have to go in and use the right words. For a myeloma patient, for example, you want to go in and say, I'm newly diagnosed with smoldering myeloma, which will give you much different information than saying I'm a stage 3 patient. You have to look for credible websites. So I always tell patients, in general, the top 3 websites, cancer.gov, cancer.net, cancer.org. But make sure you go in and put in Research Foundation and your type of cancer. So you will find an organization like the MMRF that will help you specific to your disease. And make sure you call them, give them your email so you're in constant touch with that organization that can really, really help you. The second piece is know your insurance. And I'm always blown away by how many people know that they're covered by Medicare or private insurance, but they don't call the number on the back of their card. Don't assume you are covered. The out-of-pocket expenses of having cancer can be astronomical. Make sure you're in touch with your insurance company. The third part is insurance should cover a second opinion for you. Go get it. Make sure that you're talking to somebody potentially at an academic center, an NCI-designated cancer center, but make sure you find out what they believe is the best treatment plan for you. Many times, your prognosis and your treatment plan can change with a second opinion. You want all the information you can pull together at that time.
And our patient navigators, 3 former oncology nurses with 60 years of taking care of patients, the most common questions they get are, how do I find a second opinion? Mm-hmm. How do I pay for my treatments? How do I avoid financial burdens? So they are a great place to start, followed by our website. And on our website, you said we segment the material. Are you smoldering? Are you newly diagnosed? Are you in remission? Are you relapse refractory? Do you prefer to read something? Do you prefer to watch a video? And then they can curate their own collection of information specific to their type of disease. Okay, so you get to the right doctor, you've had your second opinion, you're about to start treatment. What should patients be thinking then?
Yeah, in the book, we call this go time. This is when the patient is the busiest. It's a little overwhelming for them, and they need to make sure they have a great caregiving team, helping them to get to appointments, take care of their kids, their parents, whatever may be happening. But you and I both know that this part also involves the 3 T's. So the T's are your team, your tests, and your treatment. Let's talk about team. When it comes to your team, this is the team that's going to oversee your care for the long haul. You need to understand whether you want to go to a local community center, which is perfectly fine, especially if you have to work and you can't get off work and you're limited. The second is you could get to an academic medical center, often in a city that might be close by to you, and they tend to do more research and they're part of a teaching hospital. And then, of course, the third is get to an NCI-designated cancer center. There are 72 of them out there. You can go to the National Cancer Institute website and find out if there's one appropriate for you. On the test side, there's new diagnostics happening all the time. On your portal, you'll, of course, see standard diagnostics like your blood tests, your metabolic tests. But it's really important to ask your doctor about genomic testing, biomarker testing, and immune profiling. I say that because insurance doesn't always automatically cover it. The doctor may need to go to bat for you, but it's really important to know your subtype of disease. Once you know your subtype, now you can move to the third T, which is treatment. You want to get at least the standard of care. You can find the standard of care by going to nccn.org or by talking to an organization like the MMRF. But at the same time, ask your doctor what are some of the newer things happening that they found out at a recent medical meeting like ASCO or the American Society of Hematology. Once you see those trends, it may be that there's a phase 3 or a clinical trial that might be appropriate for you. So make sure you're constantly getting into the doctor's office and asking the right questions.
And our Patient Navigation Center uses the 3 Ts, the right track, as we developed up at Harvard. And we really do encourage patients, as you know, to have a team that includes a local community doctor where you're getting your treatment, you're getting your test results, but then you have an expert overseeing your care. And it's a lot easier now. When we started, there were 4 or 5 myeloma experts. Now there's dozens of them. So patients can put that team together. And then in terms of the test results, one of our most popular webinars and one of our most downloaded fact sheet is Learn Your Lapse. So instead of going through the pages and pages of printouts or portals, we boil it down for patients. Here's what you really need to look at. And as you said, this could influence what treatment you get. Okay, so now we're at a place in myeloma where treatment is standard and patients are having a 80+% response to quad therapy up front. Then they move to a CAR T bispecific, and they're getting into MRD negativity. What do you say to those patients in terms of maximizing and living their life while in remission, but also knowing that they could relapse? The disease is still not cured.
I see this all the time where patients finish their treatment and they ring the bell, they high-five their doctor, they do all these things, and I really do understand it. Like, you as a patient should celebrate the fact that you just got through all of that treatment. And by the way, thank your caregiving team that helped you get through it, because that's really important too. But at the end of the day, you are not done. I mean, I wish I could say you're done, but you're not usually done as a cancer survivor. So the most important thing patients have to do is know how deep their remission is. And so we know this in myeloma, and that now we can actually do MRD testing, minimal residual disease. It really helps you to know, are you in a stringent complete remission? Are you in a partial remission? What is it? This will help you to know the odds of your disease coming back. And I know it's hard for patients to face these numbers and these statistics, but knowledge is a powerful tool. And in that situation, if you know you're at risk, the next thing is you have to be monitored. A lot of cancer patients go back to their primary care doctor, but maybe you still need to make sure you're seeing that oncologist and they're working with your primary care or your internist to make sure you're getting everything you need to be monitored closely. That way, if it comes back, they're finding it quickly again. And then another really important area is second cancers. Now, I always talk about secondary cancers. In the book, I talk about the fact that I had radiation to the ribs, and that was probably putting me at high risk of breast cancer, which indeed I did get. That's a secondary cancer, probably because of the treatment. But you can also get second cancers, which means you're just getting older. Time is going by, you're getting older, and the odds of getting breast cancer, prostate cancer, and others are increasing. So you have to keep your screenings up. You have to make sure you're doing all of those screenings and staying in touch with your primary care. And then the last thing I always tell everybody is, now that you know you've had this, make sure you're telling the rest of your family. There could be a genetic predisposition. There could be other things going on. How many times do we all fill out our medical forms and say, oh, no, I have no risk, and then you found out the hard way that, yes, a grandparent, a parent, an aunt or uncle also had this type of disease, and you really didn't know about it. Transparency, knowledge, again, it's so powerful.
And we do encourage patients to at least stay somewhat informed so that if they no longer are MRD negative, start treatment early before the disease is too aggressive, when your immune system is still really strong, but start to know what those options are after a BCMA targeting agent. And then certainly keep up with the rest of your health, because yes, you know well, 1 in 8 women get breast cancer regardless of whether they had cancer before. So it is important to keep up with those screenings.
Yeah.
And finally, you mentioned earlier the caregiver, and the book has such a strong focus on the role of the caregivers. I think intuitively we all know how important that is, and it makes sense that it can take an emotional, a physical toll on the caregivers, but many feel like they can't take a break. The cancer patient doesn't get to take a break from the cancer. What advice do you have, both for patients and caregivers, in terms of making sure that the caregivers have the support and the ability to self-care to help the patient?
Yeah, I think going back and reading the 25 journals I'd written, while I was dealing with multiple myeloma over all those years, helped me to understand the toll that cancer can take on an entire family. And the longer you're living, the longer the toll it might take. So, my advice for caregivers is always speak up. Don't keep it inside. If you're feeling stressed and you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to say something to the patient, but also come up with solutions together. It may be that you need to find additional resources, other people that could help with the caregiving, or resources at the community or academic center that could help you too. Number two is know exactly what you need and what you want. Write it down. And once you write down those needs, which tend to be more like, I need rides, I need money, I need to keep getting my job, I need my kids taken care of. Once you write all those needs down, then you find the right caregiving team to help you. And people will absolutely help. But at the same time, you'll never face a diagnosis like this again. Like the moment that somebody looks at you and says you have cancer is a moment that you sit down and say, what do I really want with my life? And typically your caregiver is your spouse, your children. It's a really great time to reevaluate your life with them and for them and say, what is it that we're trying to do together? And don't miss that moment, because if you can really understand it and put that sticky note on your computer of what really matters, it might drive you to a much more successful journey.
And you point out in the book too, expanding that caregiving team. You talk a lot about your local group of friends, and there are so many simple things. People want to help. To say, hey, take a walk with me. Hey, come get coffee. Hey, can I have a ride so it's not the principal caregiver always doing the work?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, people want to help. They just need the patient to tell them how to help. So, if somebody wants to go for walks, you're thrilled if they give you a call and say, I don't care if you can only make it around the block. Let's go for a walk. Or if you can walk into town, we'll do that. But I think everybody knowing that they have different roles that they can do, it makes them feel part of your team, and it makes them really happy. And as long as you're saying thank you every step of the way, it's a gift for both of you, and it builds really strong relationships.
Kathy, thank you for being here today. Thank you for everything you've done for the patient community over the last 25 years. Myeloma, it was a death sentence when you were diagnosed. Now patients are living so much longer. Their lives are so much fuller, their lives are so much richer, and yet you're still here. You're still sharing everything that you've learned. You certainly continue to inspire me, and your commitment is second to none.
It's been my pleasure, honestly. It's an honor and privilege to help as many patients as we possibly can. I hope together we take the fear out of cancer and patients can live much better lives.